The diner was quiet that afternoon, the kind of silence that makes every clink of a coffee cup echo. 3 men sat in the corner booth, their heavy leather vests marked with the emblem of a motorcycle club most people wouldn't dare approach. Their arms, thick with tattoos and muscle, told stories of a life lived on the edge, of roads taken, hearts broken, and battles survived. No one in that small-town diner dared to make eye contact with them. No one, except for a little girl in a bright blue dress who couldn't have been older than 6. She stood barely tall enough to see over the table, her small hands clutching the edge as she peered up with wide brown eyes. The men stopped talking. The air seemed to freeze. And then, with a boldness that silenced even the hum of the ceiling fans, she pointed a tiny finger at the man in the middle, the one with the long beard and the tired eyes, and said softly but clearly, "Hello, sir. My mother has a tattoo just like yours. Before we go on, if you believe in kindness and second chances and in the power of small moments to change lives, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Because what happens next might just restore your faith in humanity." For a moment, the man didn't move. He just stared at her, his weathered hand frozen halfway to his coffee cup. His tattoo, a small angel holding a broken heart, was something he hadn't thought about in years. It was a symbol from a past he had tried to bury beneath miles of asphalt and the roar of engines. The other bikers looked at each other, unsure whether to laugh or say something, but the little girl's words had already cracked something deep inside him. He leaned forward, his voice rough, asking her what her mother's tattoo looked like. The girl smiled, proud of herself for being brave enough to speak, and said it was just like that one, pointing again to the angel inked on his arm. Her mother had told her that the angel was for someone very special, someone she lost a long time ago. The diner had gone still again. Even the waitress, who had been pretending to clean a counter, stopped and watched. The biker's heart pounded. He had gotten that tattoo nearly 20 years ago, for his baby sister, the only person who ever believed he could be more than trouble. She had died when he was barely 19. After that, he lost himself, in anger, in rebellion, in the road. He asked the little girl softly, almost afraid of the answer, what her mother's name was. She said, "Her name is Sarah Lynn," and that's when his hand began to shake. He hadn't heard that name spoken in years. Sarah Lynn was his sister, the sister he thought he'd lost forever. He felt his chest tighten, memories flooding in like a storm he couldn't stop. The night he ran away, the fights with his parents, the promises he never kept. He remembered the hospital room, the crying, and how he couldn't bear to say goodbye. He thought she had passed away in a car accident. That's what one of his old friends had told him. But now, standing before him was proof that life had written a different story. The little girl smiled again, innocent and unknowing, and said her mommy was outside in the car. She had just run in to get her mommy's favorite pie, apple with extra cinnamon. He stood up slowly, his legs unsteady, and followed her gaze out the diner window. And there, sitting in an old blue sedan, was a woman with a gentle face and tired eyes that mirrored his own. When their eyes met, time seemed to stop. Sarah stepped out of the car, frozen in disbelief. He looked older, rougher, covered in scars and ink, but she knew him instantly. Tears filled her eyes before she could even move. She had mourned him for years, thinking he'd died in a gang fight somewhere. The last thing she ever wanted to believe was that her brother had simply disappeared. He stepped outside, the leather of his boots heavy on the pavement, his voice breaking as he whispered her name. And then, without hesitation, she ran into his arms. For the first time in decades, the world felt quiet, peaceful, whole. He could barely speak through the tears. He held her tightly, apologizing over and over, saying he thought she was gone. She told him she thought the same about him. The little girl, still holding her slice of pie, watched with wide eyes, not fully understanding but feeling the weight of the moment. She tugged at her uncle's hand and said, "Mommy said angels watch over us. Maybe you were her angel." He knelt down, tears streaming down his face, and hugged her close. "Maybe you're right, sweetheart," he whispered. They went back inside together, the 3 bikers quietly following behind, unsure what to do with the emotions swirling in their chests. The diner's customers, who had been watching from afar, began to smile. The waitress wiped her eyes. It was as if kindness had found its way into the most unexpected place. through the courage of a little girl in a blue dress who simply spoke from her heart. As they sat together, sharing pie and stories of the years they'd missed, the once feared bikers seemed different, softer, human. The other two men exchanged glances. They had seen their friend laugh for the first time in years. Later, as they left the diner, the little girl hugged each of them goodbye. One of the men, his voice low and husky, said, "You're a brave little angel." She smiled and replied, "That's what Mommy says too." That night, the man who had spent half his life running from his past found peace. He left the club soon after, choosing instead to rebuild what he had lost. Every weekend, he visited his sister and niece. He started volunteering at a local shelter, helping young people who were on the same path he once walked. The leather jacket stayed in the closet, replaced by something he had long forgotten, a smile. Years later, when his niece was older, she would tell people that her uncle taught her one thing that stuck forever. Sometimes the toughest people carry the heaviest hearts, and sometimes all it takes to heal them is a little kindness and a few brave words. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in the power of forgiveness, and subscribe for more real stories that remind us what truly matters. Special request, comment below. What's one moment of kindness that changed your life or someone else's? Your story might inspire someone who really needs hope today. And remember, never underestimate the power of a small act of courage. It can turn strangers into family and broken hearts into healed ones.